Good morning and welcome to Counterpoints. As you can see, that we're building out the studio right now, so here we are working from home. Emily, how you doing this week?
Good. I'm in pajama pants. No, just kidding. But it's great to have you back, Ryan. It was a blast to have Crystal here, but we missed you for sure.
Ladies' Day seemed like a great show. The
Yes.
pro shows have been fun, but it's good to get back on track here. Today we've got two new people jumping into the presidential election. We got Chris Christie and Mike Pence. We're going to talk about that. Got explosive news out of Ukraine. Also, the PGA basically getting taken over by the Saudis. We'll go into the details of this shocking deal that emerged yesterday. Emily, what else we got today?
Well, Tucker Carlson is back, so we're going to talk about that as part of the Ukraine block. Some interesting stuff going on there. We're also talking about AI, deepfakes, the 2024 election, which it does feel like the 2024 election has officially kicked off, and so of course, so are concerns about generative AI in the election. But Europe is handling them in a different way than we probably will, and so
Mhm.
we're going to talk about that. Also, Ryan, you're going to be talking a little bit about Julian Assange. I'm going to be talking a little bit about FBI and the whistleblower trying to break that down. And we have a huge guest, Ryan, because you
That's
scored a
right.
heck of an interview.
Yeah, we're going to have an interview later in the show with Imran Khan, who's the populist former prime minister of Pakistan, who is basically currently surrounded in his home in Lahore. His party has been the target of one of the most incredible kind of crackdowns that you could imagine since he was ousted in April 2022. He's going to talk about what he thinks the U.S. role was in his ouster, what he thinks the U.S. ought to be doing now stand up for rule of law and democracy. You stick around for that for sure. But to start, let's play our boy Chris Christie. This is the former New Jersey governor announcing that he's jumping into the 2024 race for the Republican nomination.
So let me tell you something, everybody. The grift from this family is breathtaking. It's breathtaking. Jared Kushner and Ivanka Kushner walk out of the White House and months later get $2 billion from the Saudis. $2 billion from the Saudis. You think it's because he's some kind of investing genius? Or do you think it's because he was sitting next to the President of the United States for 4 years doing favors for the Saudis? That's your money. That's your money he stole and gave it to his family. You know what that makes us? A banana republic. That's what it makes us. So, he may get 30% again. I'm not sure. Maybe he'll get more. Maybe he'll get less. But let me tell you what he'll know in 2024 that he had no idea of in 2016. He's in for a fight to get it.
It's like a high
Hey.
school theater teacher.
But on the substance, he's not wrong about any of that. And you and I have talked about this, and I know you agree on those points that the level of grift represented by that $2 billion payment from the Saudis to the Kushners immediately after leaving the White House is absolutely extraordinary. Like in the realm of foreign policy corruption, I can't think of anything bigger than that. Doesn't mean that smaller levels of corruption from Romania or from Ukrainian gas companies or whatever are less, are not themselves, evidence of corruption. But good Lord, $2 billion
Yeah,
to a family that is trying to get back into the White House is just incredible.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I know we have a lot of clips, so we have to keep it moving. But just a quick thought is that it's interesting, particularly because no other Republican candidate goes after Trump on that question of corruption. They watched everyone else basically try it in 2015 and 2016. And so they're hesitant to wade back into those waters. They don't want to offend Trump supporters whose votes they need. And they also know it's kind of baked into the Trump cake. But as unserious, I think, of a candidacy as Chris Christie's is, that's one of the more interesting things. If this is a kamikaze mission for Chris Christie to exact vengeance on Donald Trump and take him down, I mean, the difference between what happened in 2015 and 2016 is that he wasn't president yet. And now this is actually like a grift that happened as president of the United States who campaigned to drain the swamp. Do I think it's a fatal blow? Not even close. But I do think it's interesting to see Trump actually to see him actually talk about that.
And for people who don't know the backstory, it's not as if Chris Christie has some unique level of purity on this question here. It's that he prosecuted Jared Kushner's father, and Jared Kushner paid him back by making sure that Chris Christie's life in the Trump orbit was miserable, blocking him from appointments and otherwise undermining him during the Trump presidency. And so Christie has always had a feud with Jared Kushner. And so that's where this is coming from, not any kind of innate kind of disgust that he might have at how MBS spends his bribe money.
You're right. And it's not like Chris Christie really has a leg to stand on when it comes to that either. So let's roll the next clip from, again, this was Chris Christie's Tuesday night presidential announcement in New Hampshire. Here he is again.
Beware of the leader in this country who you have handed leadership to, who has never made a mistake, who has never done anything wrong, who when something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault, and who has never lost. I've lost. You people did that to me in 2016.
That's good, right? That's kind of funny.
He also referred to Trump as a, quote, lonely, self-consumed, self-serving mirror hog, and said, quote, we can't dismiss the question of character anymore, everybody. If we do, we get what we deserve. And an advisor to the campaign told Mike Allen of Axios that Christie's campaign will emphasize authenticity and, quote, be willing to admit mistakes, be accountable, and share why he keeps showing up, even when it seems hard. Obviously, for somebody now running on authenticity against corruption and grift, he might have some Bridgegate explaining to do if anybody really cared about his candidacy.
Yes, indeed. But it probably doesn't get to that point. Trump did not go with the Bridgegate rebuttal. Let's play the response from the front runner for the Republican nomination to the entry of Chris Christie into the race. Let's roll that.
And it was about our country and its future. And I wondered what our choice was going to be. Were we going to be small or are we going to be big?
Okay.
That's the former president of the United States, just winning the meme war left and right. A lot of people online did pick up on Christie repeatedly using the word small. It seemed intentional. I thought the entire rollout from Christie was just sort of cringe, and more than I expected it to be, because he actually, when he first became governor of New Jersey, he clearly had some political talent. And I mean that in the sense of like the political theater. He wasn't bad at it. You know, he really was one of the first people to maximize the power of a viral clip. At the time, it was probably like people pinging it around on listservs, but of him just like laying into teachers unions. It was, the political theater part wasn't that bad. This feels like, a 80s hair metal band trying to, stay alive and play all the hits for, a big boomer concert crowd, because it's like so badly done. When he's getting in people's faces and walking over to them, it felt like, middle school theater.
I do think of him during his time as New Jersey governor as sort of like a proto-Trump. Like he didn't necessarily see Trump coming, but he understood that that's where the energy of the Republican Party was going, and so he fed them that type of spectacle where he was attacking the media and attacking his political enemies without any type of hedging, any efforts to appear like a reasonable center who's like going to sit down with the teachers unions and going to work something out. He famously would just yell at the teachers unions if he was fortunate enough from his perspective to have a teacher come and confront him. He delighted in that, and he would grab the cameras and he would go after them, and the Republican base then would celebrate that. But I feel like there's something that Christie can't match when Trump came and kind of topped a proto-Trump. Like if you're proto-Trump and you meet Trump himself, it's very difficult for you to kind of up your game to a level that is going to get the same reaction out of the crowd than you can with the headline act.
I think that's a really good point. And there's no reason that it'll be different from 2016, I don't think, except for one interesting, perhaps, development, which is that Chris Christie, some indications point to him really being on a kamikaze mission and saying, I know my political future is in the rearview mirror, and what I want to do is take down Donald Trump, as opposed to in 2015, 2016, the guy clearly wanted to work in the White House. He wanted to be
Yes.
a cabinet official. He wanted to be chief of staff. He wanted a major appointment. So he couldn't go full kamikaze and totally run against Trump. In fact, what he did was basically kamikaze the rest of the Republican field and go after Marco Rubio. And this is, Chris Christie knowing he really had no chance. I think that Rubio debate moment that people remember was in New Hampshire, and Christie is sort of uniquely suited to the New Hampshire audience, at least in his performance. I don't know if actually policy-wise he's probably not the best fit, but he is somebody who's like kind of an unorthodox coastal establishment Republican that also has this brash populist energy, but no populist policies. He's just a weird candidate in 2023, but and I don't think any of his kamikaze plans seem to be what actually will go after Trump. But to the point about the Kushners, nobody else is talking about that. So I say bring it on.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I actually think Christie gets a little bit too much credit for that debate performance, because all he did was point out that Marco Rubio had said the same grammatically awkward line 3 times within like a 90-second window that I think the entire audience recognized also. And all Christie had to do is kind of just point to the guy tripping over his own shoelaces. And people are like, wow, what a knockout blow from Christie. It's like, no, the guy just fell over on his face.
Agree.
But if he's going to do a kamikaze mission, the question is, who does that serve? Because like you said, he kamikazed himself through the primary electorate, serving Trump, hoping that he would could get some type of position within that administration. Now maybe it's a CNN contributor, some type of institution or audience that will celebrate a kamikaze mission in the Republican primary. But speaking of kamikaze missions, I think we might have another fighter in the air who is similarly kind of nosediving toward a Trump battleship, and that's Mike Pence, who after breaking with Trump a number of times. We can put up, I think, A2 here. Pence is filing the paperwork. News that I was actually shocked to see, I think was broken by The Messenger, which is that new kind of Hill knockoff news outlet. A couple days ago, they announced that he'd be jumping into the race within 2 weeks. He has filed the paperwork to run. What's your read on what kind of moment this is for Mike Pence?
Yeah, it's interesting. So it felt to me like this last week, the Joni Ernst Roast and Ride event out in Iowa was the kind of unofficial kickoff to the 2024 presidential primary season. And it's hard to always know. It's like the quote about pornography, right? Like it when you see it. That's what it is about. That's what it is with the primary season. And I feel like it's actually like you hear people, oh, I'm going to announce they launched their PAC, they filed their paperwork. But with Christie and Pence making their announcements this week, Pence is making his official announcement today. He's already rolled out a video. He's going to be doing a CNN town hall. It feels like now it's really happening. Ron DeSantis has been in Iowa, South Carolina, New Hampshire, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Asa Hutchinson. I don't know why I felt compelled to mention him there, but it does really seem like it's in full swing now. And with Pence entering this week, it's interesting. In his announcement video, he said, quote, "I'll always be proud of the progress we made together," referring to Trump, "for a stronger, more prosperous America. But different times call for different leadership. I have faith God is not done with America yet." So you see how his Trump strategy, his Trump messaging strategy is say, I was proud of the administration. Now we're in a different time, need a different guy. And it's definitely not the Christie strategy. It may or may not be similar to the DeSantis strategy. We still don't really know. That's a little preview of how Mike Pence plans to deal with it. I will say, for all of the people just quickly wondering why on earth is Mike Pence getting into the race, 2 things. Ben Domenech made a really good point, which is that, take Mike Pence seriously when he says he prayed about it, and that his faith is really real. And if he believes that through prayer he came to the decision he should run, then that's probably why he's running. And secondly, I was talking on Megyn Kelly's show about this. Like, these candidates are old. Trump and Biden are old. There is an element of a totally unexpected potential situation that could unfold in a year. and then things would be the race would just be blown essentially wide open if something were to happen health-wise. And then you're in the race and you have a real shot at becoming president if everything is suddenly blown open.
And there are criminal cases underway that'll matter too. And but before we move on to the next segment, I did want to ask you one question. I noticed that at least one high-profile Republican on Twitter recently was talking about how excited they were about RFK Jr.'s Twitter Spaces, and I've seen some other kind of populist right enthusiasm around RFK Jr. So I'm curious, from your perspective, what would happen if he had jumped in the Republican primary instead? Do you think his numbers would be, lesser, equal, or greater than in the Democratic primary?
I would say lesser. I think the abortion issue would be a real one. I think you would have to talk a whole lot more about like the kind of woke cultural issues that he sort of steered clear of, because right now he's trying to draw a contrast with Biden. And that's really interesting. I don't know, but I think there's something also very alluring to a lot of people on the right about the sort of Democratic candidate who's running. I mean, that was the whole Trump thing, was that he was trying to appeal to these sort of old school Rust Belt Democrats, and he pulled a lot of them over. So I think there's something very alluring about that too. I think that's probably why there are a lot of people on the right that are like, oh, RFK, he's talking about being like a 60s Democrat, a Kennedy Democrat. So that's probably part of it from my perspective.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.